Have you ever drawn your fantasy map and then hit a wall? You've got the rivers, the mountains, the forests, but now you face a critical question. Where should your cities go? If you've ever wrestled with that, this video is for you. Today, we're talking about where to place cities and why. And to do it, we're going to take a whirlwind tour through some of the biggest cities in the United States. Welcome to another episode of Just-in-Time World Building with your host, Marie Mullaney. So, just before we get into the video itself, I do want to give my thanks to Mr. Beat, and I will link his original video down below where he spoke about these 25 cities that are in the United States and that are the biggest cities in the USA. So I took that video and turned the content into the answer to this question. Where should your fantasy cities be? Okay. So let's hit the first and biggest reason to place a city: strategic geography. The first reason cities get founded at all is about their geography. There are places where the natural terrain offers an advantage to settlements, either for defense, for control over trade, or for access to key transportation routes. Think about St. Louis as an example. It sits at the confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi rivers. And back when it was founded, rivers were basically highways. If you wanted to move anything quickly and in bulk, you did it by river. Well, almost everywhere. So here's a quick rabbit hole for us to dive into, and stick with me. If you've ever looked at a map of Namibia, the country in Africa, you'll notice it's got this weird little tail sticking out to the side. That bit is called the Caprivi Strip. And the reason it exists is colonial optimism. See, the Germans thought they were buying a corridor to the Indian Ocean by purchasing the strip from the Brits. They believed that the Okavango River would lead them to the Zambezi River, which could take them all the way across the continent. But African rivers don't work like that. They're way too unpredictable. There's too much flooding, too many drought cycles, too many narrow points, shifting deltas, waterfalls, and let's not forget about hippos and crocodiles. With the exception of the Nile, you can't really use African rivers for barge travel the way you can in Europe or North America. So yeah, the Caprivi Strip exists because of a fundamentally flawed idea of how rivers work. Anyway, back to North American cities. In the US, rivers do work the way they do largely in Europe, which is to say they're wide, they're navigatable, and relatively consistent, so cities like St. Louis and Chicago made perfect sense. Chicago, in particular, connects the Great Lakes to the Mississippi. And once the railroads arrived, it became the transportation hub of the nation. Another transportation hub was Detroit. Its importance comes from controlling a key strait in the Great Lakes system, again, that strategic advantage. So that strait connects the inland waterways, making it a choke point for shipping and movement between the lakes. And then there's Boston, which is a natural harbor, deep, protected, and accessible. And the same story for San Francisco, Seattle, and New York. Basically, if you've got a really great harbor, especially one sheltered by cliffs, you're almost guaranteed to have a city there. Anything that is kind of protected from the weather and deep enough to take ships. Washington, D.C. also belongs here, sort of. It's got river access and a central location, but it was more politically chosen than naturally inevitable. And we'll cover that when we get to political capitals, which is reason number 3. Okay, so here's the takeaway for your world building with strategic geography. Wherever you have choke points, river crossings, natural harbors, or mountain passes, you're likely to have a city. Basically, when your geography funnels people or trade into a narrow or protected space, that's where your city should go. Because geography doesn't just shape land, it shapes civilization. Just before we get to the second point, today's community art comes from my artist for my books, Ferby, and I will put a link to his Fiverr down below. This art will be featured in my upcoming re-release of my books, so keep an eye out for that. And if you're interested in having your art featured in the community art section, there is a Discord link down below. Okay, now let's get back to economic opportunities and trade routes. Now you're going to notice some overlap between these categories, especially between trade routes and strategic geography. And that's completely normal. In fact, it's important. A city can have multiple reasons to exist, and the more reasons it has, the more likely it is to become a bigger and more resilient and influential city. For example, strategic geography might set the stage, but it's economic opportunity, trade, and industry that drives long-term growth. So let's talk about the cities that thrive because they became hubs for trade, shipping, resource extraction, or even agriculture. First, Baltimore. It's got a deep water harbor and it makes it perfect for shipping, and yes, that is another harbor. Houston has both water access and oil, and it's one of the busiest ports in the world for that reason. San Diego is not just a harbor, but also a key naval base location. When I was in San Diego, I did this great tour about their naval history, which was very interesting. Tampa is another great harbor that became a center for cigars, phosphate, and tourism. Miami is perfectly positioned for Caribbean trade and later became a gateway for immigrants arriving in the United States. And Portland is the end of the Oregon Trail. You have died of dysentery. Also, it is a lumber and it has a lot of lumber and has a shippable river. And then Los Angeles, again, is trade based on agriculture, entertainment, and aerospace, all anchored by water, the Los Angeles Aqueduct, shipping, and sunshine, really good weather. Dallas grew into multiple railroad crossings and became a manufacturing and trade magnet. Denver is a very interesting case because it was built on gold and silver, the rushes of people to those resources. But it grew because of its central location and rail links. Okay, so that's the United States. But how do you apply that to your world? First, ask yourself, where are the natural resource hotspots? Where is there lumber, ore, grain, whale skins, void crystals, good agricultural lands, anything like that? Second, where do trade routes converge? That's where cities bloom, taking materials from one location to another. But this also ties into your world's transportation tech. Let's say you're working with ox carts originally. Those need to stop every night so that the animals can rest, meaning you'll have frequently spaced, fairly close settlements along the route where the ox carts stop. But if your world has railroads or magical lightning rails that can travel much farther than an ox cart, your cities will be further apart, and each one will be larger and more specialized because of that additional distance. and even more interesting, what happens when new tech replaces old? If ox carts dominated in one era and rail then replaces them, many of those old stopover towns will wither into ghost towns, bypassed by the new infrastructure. That is a really fun detail to add to your map. Dots of forgotten towns, relics of a previous age of trade, scattered like bones across the countryside. Okay, so to recap, economic opportunity grows cities. Trade routes fuel cities. And when the transportation changes, the map also can change. Before we continue, allow me one moment to invite you to join my mailing list. It's free, the letters come out once a quarter, so I'm not going to spam you, and it contains all kinds of useful nuggets of information. There's also a Q&A section where you can ask me questions, and I will answer them. Links to all of that down below. Okay, back to the reasons cities exist and where to put them on your map. Let's talk about religious, political, or planned capitals. So these cities exist in their location not because they necessarily grew there because of geography, trade, or resources, but because of political, cultural, or religious reasons. These are cities with a mandate, not just some sort of natural advantage. The most obvious example in the USA is Washington, D.C. Washington was chosen specifically to be the capital of the United States, placed in a neutral location, separate from the influence of any individual state. Now, yes, obviously, there are some practical considerations. You can't just plop a city down in the middle of nowhere where it has zero access to water or resources and expect it to thrive even if you do make it the capital. But the key point is this: DC became a major city not because of where it was, but because of what it was chosen to be. Another great example is Denver. Denver started out as a gold rush town, but it didn't stay small. People actively lobbied to make Denver first part of Kansas and later the capital of Colorado. It wasn't inevitable that Denver would grow to be a large city. It was politically maneuvered into that role. And once a city is chosen, whether as a capital, a holy site, or a cultural symbol, its growth can explode, even if its location isn't ideal. So what you want to think about in your world, on your map, is where do you really want to put a city, even if it's not an ideal location? And then just choose that as a religious site or as a political site. America doesn't have that many religious sites, but in Europe and in many other parts of the world, you do get cities that exist purely because of some religious or cultural event. A saint passed through there, or a vision happened, or a relic was found there. Then pilgrims come to that site and money follows and the town grows. Even if it's a tiny village in the mountains, the belief that something sacred happened at such a location can turn that kind of town into a city over time. So if you want to use that in your world building, think about things like miracles, birthplaces of a prophet, or the place where the gods touched down, depending on your cosmology. The key thing to remember is this: cities don't always emerge organically. Sometimes they're declared into being. And once they're chosen, that role can shape their destiny, even if the geography says otherwise. But political seats aren't the norm. So let's turn to our last big category of where to place your cities: resource-based cities. Okay, so we have already touched on this in trade cities, of course, but these are places where cities emerge because of natural resources, places where the economy and identity of the city is shaped by what could be pulled from the land. And I know what you're thinking, right? Mining towns, gold, silver, got it. Sure, but it's not just mining. Now, Denver and Charlotte were both gold rush cities, built on the lure of buried treasure. But take Minneapolis. It wasn't built on what was underground, but what was flowing. It grew around the St. Anthony Falls, the only natural major waterfall on the Mississippi River. Why does that matter? Because the falling water powers the flour and lumber mills, which enabled the city to thrive through the power generated by the water. Then there's Orlando, not a mining town, but an agricultural hub. Its warm climate and the fertile soil made it perfect for citrus farming. Orange groves filled the region, and that's what put Orlando on the map, long before theme parks showed up. Phoenix is a very interesting example. That city exists because of irrigation. The ancient Hohokam had built a canal system that the early American settlers reused to turn the desert into viable farmland. And of course, Houston exploded thanks to oil and gas. Energy, not just trade, powered its growth. So your world building here is simple. Put cities where there's something valuable to extract. And that could be something to dig up like ores, minerals, or magic crystals. Something to grow like grain, herbs, or enchanted trees. Something to harvest like salt flats, coral, or sky beast feathers. Or something that powers, or something that provides energy, geothermal vents, arcane ley lines, lightning harvest towns, whatever matches your setting and provides energy to fuel your economies. People will flock to where resources concentrate. And if the resources are plentiful or vital enough, the city will grow beyond its original purpose. Orlando is a great example of this. Sure, it started with oranges, but now it's world famous for something else entirely: theme parks and tourism. That's the arc of a resource-based city, from function to identity to reinvention. So when you're placing your cities, don't just look at the mountains. Look at what's in them, what's flowing past them, or what's growing on their fringes, and put some cities there. And those are the 4 main reasons to pick where to place your city on a map: strategic geography, trade routes, seat of power shenanigans, or resource locations. And if you enjoyed this episode, hit the thumbs up button. And if you really love my work, consider becoming a channel member to help me feed my cats. And a very great thank you to all my channel members, especially the just-in-timers of the Build It in Stone level: Neil Buckley, Lupex Lakeshire, Necromancer JM, Epic, Katie Kofi Mug, and Tony Lamanna, as well as the just-in-timers of the wood and straw level. But don't feel pressured to help me financially. You can also show your support for the channel just by watching another video. Since you enjoyed this video, consider watching my video on the Silk Route and creating such trade routes in a fantasy world, or whatever the algorithm is recommending for you right now. And I will see you soon for another episode from Just in Time World Building.